I'm sailing away.
Sticks, classic 10:07 on your Thursday morning, back here on the Bernie and Sid Show on legendary 77 WABC, the post Yom Kippur Show. And it's good to be back. I missed you yesterday, bro.
Oh, come on. We missed the hell out of you.
You did a great job. I heard the show. I heard Norman Lear. That was great. Did a fantastic job, but it's nice to be back with you today.
It was nice to have a living legend. It would have been better to have you here with me to interview him for some laughs, but you would have loved him.
Yeah.
Right, Jill? He was such a
sweet man.
Such a nice, gentle, teddy bearish type of guy. Of course, a legend.
It's great that he has his wits. When you could be that old and have your wits about you.
That's right. Gives us hope.
It does.
Not really. Hey, not you and I.
That guy voted for FDR.
How about that?
He flew. He was on 52 combat missions over Europe back in World War II. I mean, what an incredible! And he's no exercise freak or
what does he look like? I was wondering what he looked like.
He looks good. I mean, he's still 94, but he looks good.
Okay,
let's put it that way. He could easily be 76. Yeah, we got a little feedback coming in. But, it's too bad you weren't here for it. But whatever. He says he'll come back.
When's he going to do that? I mean, it's not like...
Take it easy.
Yeah. Kind of running out of time on that one, no?
Not necessarily.
All right.
Okay. So let's not start on that note.
Let's do none of that.
Anyway, he was good.
He was good.
And so you had your Yom Kippur. You fasted yesterday?
I sure did.
That's a lie.
Of course.
And you went to temple?
I sure did.
That's another lie.
Of course.
Did you even put a yarmulke on?
I sure did.
What was you haven't put a yarmulke on since you had a freaking Jew fro.
No.
Are you kidding me?
No, I've actually put a yarmulke on often because all of my nephews and nieces have gotten married. When you go to a wedding, the service part of the wedding, you do put a yarmulke on. I've had nephews and nieces get bar mitzvahed. So in that respect, I've worn a yarmulke many, many times.
Do you ever wear a yarmulke to the gym? I see guys sometimes at the gym.
Often.
Pumping up?
At least 3 days a week.
So huge.
All right, put talis on, tzitzis, the whole deal.
What happened? So anyway,
I did tweet yesterday. Somebody yelled at me. They're like, "Wait a second! It's Yom Kippur. Get off Twitter. Get off technology.
That's
You're
right.
supposed to be
atoning."
Yes.
And no. Back to the Stone Ages. No electronics.
None of that
services.
stuff. Right. But I felt like I had atoned enough early in the morning, and I had some time, so I got a couple of tweets in.
Honestly, for you, it should be like a month of atonement.
A month, right.
A day of atonement hardly covers it. But
hardly. Yeah.
But if you're not atoning to begin with, I mean, what's the point?
Right, exactly
just take the day off and hang out with the family and come back to work.
Well, why not? Well, I mean, if you don't want to apologize or like Donald Trump, for example, he could never celebrate Yom Kippur because he doesn't believe in apologies.
If you're not contrite, what's the point?
100. Boy, I couldn't have said it any
right?
better.
Thank you.
You ain't contrite, it ain't right.
If you ain't contrite, it ain't right.
Right.
Or something, as
right.
Crash just said.
Well, we got a couple of really good guests actually on the program today, coming up in about 20 minutes. I thought this guy stole the DNC. New York City cop, detective, told the whole story about how Hillary Clinton was there, how she was the one who got the money for the first responders in the city, and how Donald Trump, he made money on one of his buildings after 9/11. Joe Sweeney already in the house. He was on Bill O'Reilly last week. He's here today. And then Ralph Nader in the 11 o'clock hour.
Ralph Nader.
Yes, your boy.
Between Ralph Nader and Norman Lear, we're really...
they love us in Delray Beach.
We're going for that demographic.
All of Warner Wolf's buddies are like, listen, Bernie and Sid, they got all our guys.
Yeah. Warner Wolf is a young stud compared to those
Yes, he
two
is.
guys.
You're right.
So,
You're right.
Norman Lear, 94. Ralph Nader, 82.
Is he 82 already?
Yeah, he's 82.
Did you vote for him in 2000?
No, of course not.
No, because Florida says she did. Florida says
I absolutely did.
She voted for him.
All right, well.
So did Crash.
So you helped George Bush get elected.
Right.
God bless. Thank you, yes. Well, actually, in Florida was where it counted.
That was the big one.
It really didn't matter up here. But, Florida. And he disputes that. We'll talk to him maybe about it a little bit.
What does he dispute about it? I'm just curious.
Well, he says that he breaks the numbers down, and he says they don't, that 537 votes, that it wouldn't have come from his group of people.
Okay.
He does dispute it. He takes great umbrage to it, actually.
Right.
And he says that people who call third-party candidates spoilers, he says they're political bigots.
Right.
So we'll get into
he was the Green Party, which is what Jill Stein is now.
Who he is supporting now, who, by the way, I happen to admire.
I know you like her.
I like Jill Stein.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a woman of some real accomplishment
Unlike Hillary.
of her own.
Unlike Hillary.
Unlike Hillary, who you have to admit rode her husband's coattails to where she is.
She definitely used him a bit, I would say.
And is not principled at all. Jill Stein is very principled, very intelligent, and is self-made.
Okay, great.
So I admire that. I disagree with
Jill
her
Stein
on a lot of
in the middle of January will be in her house watching Hillary Clinton at the inauguration.
All true. Well, and while, of course, Hillary Clinton and I think Ralph Nader will point this out. In fact, I have a clip of Jill Stein. She says Hillary Clinton is more dangerous than Donald Trump. Another reason for me to like her. Yeah. Plus, she looks like she looks like back in the day. She probably was a good-looking lady.
Maybe.
And she still is a good-looking.
Yeah, she's okay.
Anyway, this is what she said. Take a listen.
On the issue of war and nuclear weapons and the potential for nuclear war, it's actually Hillary's policies which are much scarier than Donald Trump, who does not want to go to war with Russia. He wants to seek modes of working together, which is the route that we need to follow.
So there you go.
What's
not to like?
No, she's fine.
If you don't want World War III, you have to vote Trump.
Yes.
That scares me, the Russia thing.
Sure, that should scare you. Right.
It does.
Yeah, she's.
We're going to war with Russia. That's gonna stupid.
It does. She's going to try to prove her, how tough she is, and of course. All of that stuff.
We're not going to war.
By
the way, everybody keeps telling me that she bought and sold everybody. Trump can't be bought and sold. The only reason why Donald Trump is not tougher on Putin and Russia is he wants to build a casino in Moscow. If that doesn't scare you, I don't know what the hell does. He has put himself in front of the country. He's not about helping defeat ISIS. He's all about how can I make money in Russia? What can I build? And therefore, I need to be friends with Putin. If you don't get that, you're somewhere between naive and stupid and closer to the latter.
The first segment since
that's it. I'm all fired up.
He's calling his names already.
If you really believe Trump likes Putin because they can defeat ISIS together, you're a moron.
But Putin hates Hillary.
So Putin what?
Putin hates Hillary, so he's more likely to go to war with us if she's elected.
Russia and the United States are not going to war. What is wrong with you?
He called back all of his Russian people. That's what it says in the paper.
We just had an incident down with the Houthi, the Iranian-backed Houthi rebels. We fired some missiles at some ships. I mean, and you have the Iranians are backing the Houthis, and the Russians are backing the Iranians. And it's a whole mess, and she's going to look to flex her muscles. She's more in line with the whole neocon nonsense, whereas Donald Trump is not. He takes a realistic look at things and says, "What is in our best interest?"
He takes a realistic look. Come on.
Let's kill ISIS. That's
I don't know how to do it, but I'm going to kill ISIS. I'm going to build walls. I'm going to spend all this money. I've got a very realistic approach.
It ain't going to be by fighting the Russians.
We're not going to fight the Russians.
Okay, good. Don't worry about it. So now I'm voting Hillary because you said
Thank
that.
you.
Now, speaking of which, this is actually an amusing clip. This CNN reporter, Christiane Amanpour, excuse for an objective journalist.
That's funny.
She actually was interviewing the Russian foreign minister, Sergei Lavrov, and they were talking about all this. Well,
can I stop you for 1 second? I'm just wondering at one part of the show, the story that everybody in the world is talking about today is not the Russians or Christiane Amanpour or all this nonsense.
It's
that Donald Trump is out there grabbing women.
Listen.
That's the only story. People, why don't we get to that at some point?
Let me just say this.
Yeah.
Laughter trumps anything else.
I laugh when I hear the stories about Donald Trump because he's the person to call out Bill Clinton. He's no better. So why can't I laugh at that?
So listen to this.
Okay.
Russia had its own Pussy Riot moment. What do you think of Donald Trump's Pussy Riot moment?
Well, I don't know whether this would. English is not my mother tongue. I don't know whether I would. I would sound decent. There are so many pussies around your presidential campaign on both sides that I prefer not to comment.
Not to comment with the pussies.
That's funny.
Come on, see what I'm saying?
That's funny.
Hilarious.
Before you go flying off the handle.
No, I just.
All right, now you go ahead. Go ahead and bash Trump. You get all the Trump bashing in you want. I got a couple of laughs. Doesn't hurt anybody,
I don't want to bash him. I think.
Go get him.
You want my opinion? What's happened here is that he poked the beast. He poked the beast, and he can't beat her. He can't beat her. He can't beat the Clintons. He can't beat her in a debate where he has to show his smarts because he's stupid compared to her. He can't beat her if he tries to fight her because if he can say what he wants about Bill Clinton, there's no shock value left. The world, the people voting for Hillary like me know Bill Clinton is a dog. We know what he's done. There's no shock value. But every time another story comes out about Donald Trump and what he may have or may not have done, that shock value, that hurts Trump 10 times more than him saying, I'm going to talk more about Bill Clinton. We know about Clinton. We know about the rape allegations. We know about the women. Guess what? Nobody cares. Only Trump supporters care. No one's going to not vote for Hillary because of Bill. But every time something comes out on Trump, that's a killer for him. And I think they're looking to kill him.
All right.
And I think some of it is unfair.
Well said. So go ahead. What's the point? I'm not sure.
The point is I'm not sure what my retort. The point is I'm not even sure he's done half of these things. I'm really not.
Right.
But he poked the beast, and I was going to get killed for it.
He poked the beast, meaning he brought up the Clinton stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
And now they're going to beat him to death.
So
they've been beating him to death for months, by the way. For months.
Yeah, this has all been they've all been waiting in the bushes to do this. You know that.
This idea that when you punch Trump, he punches back twice as hard. If he punches back twice as hard, she punches back 10 times as hard. Right. So we can call her crooked Hillary and talk about Bill all he wants. He's the one getting murdered in the press. He's the one losing votes every day.
Right. Her and the press punch back.
Yes.
And which is what they're doing. Absolutely, you're absolutely right about that. Now they run the risk of having there be a backlash against all this because it does look like the media has this obsession that they're out to destroy Trump, and it does rankle some people. To see that the supposedly objective media actually taking an active role in the campaign. And some people see through it. Some people, it pisses some people off. Other people like you love it. You know, you go home and you whack off to it. But
I think
it can have the reverse effect.
No, it can't.
I'm hoping it does.
It can't.
It's possible.
It's not possible because what you need to come to the realization
maybe it's not probable, but it is possible.
It's not even possible. What you need to come to realize is, and O'Reilly has said it on this show, your boy, the majority, the overwhelming majority.
Who I'll be on tonight, by the way.
Oh, good. The overwhelming majority of the country doesn't watch Bill O'Reilly because he bitches about the media every single night. The overwhelming majority doesn't read the New York Times or Washington Post. The overwhelming majority of this country walks around 99% like goobers. They don't watch Fox News. They don't read the editorials in the top newspapers. They have no idea about media bias. Here it's a big deal in New York City. All they hear is what they see on the 11 o'clock news or Entertainment Tonight or Access Hollywood. And in those places, you're right. But in those places, Donald Trump is getting killed.
Morons.
I agree. But that's the country. Yeah. The country is not sitting around watching Bill O'Reilly at night. There's a couple of million people. That's it.
They will be tonight because Bernie's on.
That's different.
Right. You know that. You know that. So what do we do? What's the point here?
The point is, it's over. It's so over.
Really?
So now what?
Now what?
What are we going to do?
I don't want to die.
You're not going to die.
I'm scared.
Well, I don't happen to think it's over, but I know you do. You hope it's over.
No, I know it's over. I don't hope it's over. I know it's over. I won't be celebrating when she wins. I can't stand her either.
It's been over a couple of times in the past. Now, it's not looking good.
Right.
I will say that.
Gun to your head right now.
I mean, again, Trump makes a great point when you have the gutless Republicans who don't back him, who Paul Ryan, as I pointed out to O'Reilly, on the morning after what I thought and a lot of other people thought was a good performance at the debate, instead of saying good job and let's go defeat crooked Hillary.
Right.
They're out there saying, hey, you know what? Let's run away from Trump. Instead, the morning after the debate, that does pose a problem.
Oh, I agree with you, and that is all you're doing is furthering my point. Half of his party doesn't like him. The Democrats hate him. Undecideds aren't flocking to him right now. So my whole point all along has been, how's he going to win? And there's nothing happening right now that says, oh, this looks good.
There are a couple of things. I'm sure you don't want to hear this, but there may be some silent support. There may be some backlash. There may be events that occur between now and then.
Sure.
And the preponderance of all these media attacks, as I said before, may have people will become numb to it and see through it again.
But why won't they become to the attacks on Bill Clinton?
And how about this?
Well, why you got to be consistent. And by the way, if you're going to tell me that you believe...
I didn't say they weren't numb to the...
Okay, so if you're going to tell me that you believe that the women who have accused Bill Clinton, including Juanita Broderick, you're going to take their word because you side with the women, then you can't sit here today and tell me that these women on Donald Trump are lying.
I would just say that they should have come out a while ago, and not weeks before the big election. I would say that. I would say I'm a cynic because of the timing. I would say that much. But look, you know what? Here's the thing: is it this? Bill Clinton, we know what he did with the. Forget about the allegations. We know for a fact what he did to the intern in the White House in the Oval Office, right?
Yeah.
And you say he was a good president, right?
Well, the fact is, that's not what I say. I mean, the country was prosperous. We weren't in the middle of any horrible wars. Now, he did some things that bit George Bush in the ass, obviously.
So, in other words, that type of behavior is not necessarily disqualifying.
Not at all. Kennedy did worse.
Kennedy actually had one of his intern, who he was having sex with. He actually had the intern perform oral sex on one of his aides.
Yeah. Oh, I know. And the whores in and out of the White House.
And he was a good president, right?
Very good.
So it's not disqualifying.
Agreed.
And Thomas Jefferson actually raped his slave to the point where she had 7 kids.
Yes.
So, and you would say he was a good president.
Absolutely.
So this stuff is not necessarily disqualifying. Is that the?
I would totally agree. And I said that all along. Right. That's why all the stuff on Bill Clinton was very convenient. But now, of course, you're making an argument that Clinton, Kennedy, and Jefferson were good presidents. So whatever Donald Trump has done.
I wasn't making an argument. I was asking a question.
Of course. I've said that all along.
1-800-848-9222. Sid is back, baby. 1-800.
Yeah.
848-WABC.
I'm with her, baby.
I'm with Jill, too.
87 WABC.
I'm especially proud that I served on our worst day. Hillary Clinton was there every step of the way. Within 48 hours of the towers falling, Hillary introduced a bill, signed into law, that helped first responders get the benefits they earned easier and faster. Then she pressured the EPA to launch a new task force and led congressional hearings until the EPA admitted that the air hadn't been safe.
All right, there you have it for the folks that are constantly asking, what did Hillary Clinton do for New York? That is retired New York City police officer and detective Joe Sweeney. He spent 21 years with the police force here in New York. And you know, Bernard, I came in the next morning. I thought he stole the show that night. And that audio we just played, we played on our show the day after the DNC. He appeared that night.
That's right.
Because I thought he was great. And we are fortunate to have one of New York City's finest, a true hero, Joe Sweeney, an old-time buddy, right in studio. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning, Mr. Sweeney.
Good morning, fellas.
How you doing?
How are you, man?
I'm good.
You know, you served in Midtown South.
Yes.
For how many years were you there?
I was there about a little over 4 years. In the squad.
You were a detective
squad,
yeah. So you served with a friend of mine, actually.
Yes.
A guy named Brian Costello.
Yes, sir.
My boy Brian.
He's a good man.
He is off the hook. He's a good man.
Is Brian still with the force?
No, he retired himself. He was also down. He served at Ground Zero for 2 months following the tragedy.
Gotcha.
And suffered actually from it. Suffered some, and he retired on disability.
Yeah.
But he was down there pulling. He was finding bodies, and he also was out in Staten Island where they were dumping the trash.
Fresh Kills, yep.
And it was a horrible experience for him.
No, it was tough, and Brian and thousands of other guys and girls, who were from the NYPD and the fire department and all kinds of other first responding agencies, volunteers and people like that. They all have similar stories. Unfortunately for me, I was fine. Brian's somebody who was, suffered some kind of illness or injury from that.
He's doing well, but he did go through that. It was traumatic also. I know he's a tough guy and he keeps it in, but we knew he was working like around the clock down there. And anyway, he's okay, but he's a tough guy, Brian Costello. And I can't even tell you the stories that he told us about his time on the job, but the one that stands out.
These are all hypothetical stories.
Right.
He has a vivid imagination.
Filled with exaggeration.
Listen, let me just say this one. This is no exaggeration. He's a tough guy. He's a tough cop, the kind of cop you want out there.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, he told us one time he came home. He's a detective, so he wore a suit like yourself. He came home after a vicious fight with a perp. They were apprehending a perp. and his wife found teeth in the cuffs of his pants.
You're kidding.
Somebody's
Oh,
teeth.
my God. That is a good story.
Yes.
Jesus.
I mean, I could tell you a million others, but I don't think he'd want me to.
No, probably not.
He's got the same stories, probably. Well, good for Brian Costello. But before we get into the cops, while you were on Bill O'Reilly last week, Bernard is on every week. In fact, he's on tonight. Going back to what you said at the DNC, because obviously the Trump supporters like to bash Hillary. They say, what did she do when she was working in New York? And you made it very clear that after 9/11, Trump, his contention was his guys were down there helping with the wreckage. He was there. And it turns out you said the night that Hillary was the one who made sure New York got money afterwards for the guys that were suffering. And you also made the point that night that Donald Trump made money off of 9/11 when, in fact, he said one of his buildings was damaged. Is that what you said?
Well, I didn't say that, but that was the guy who followed me.
Oh, that's right, because you introduced Lauren Manning. That's
Joe
right.
Crowley, who's
right, Joe Crowley, right,
a congressman
from Queens.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
He had said that, and I knew that to be true, but
now he is a businessman, to be fair. So, and she was a politician who would naturally try to help out the city. I mean, his job was to make money.
Yeah, and in fairness, he wasn't alone. But what they did was they applied for a grant that would have been considered a small business grant, which, in the technical sense of the term, what he should have applied for, he didn't qualify for, and that was the issue. He filed under as if you were a manufacturer, so that you had, if you're a manufacturer, if you have less than 500 employees, you're considered a small business.
So, okay. But forget about him, what he did or didn't do. But your contention is that Hillary Clinton did, in fact, do a lot for New York after 9/11.
Yeah, I mean, aside from the funding aside, me personally, and I remember this, I still have these feelings of when we were down there and people like Brian and myself, and, you're down at Ground Zero, you're out at the landfill. But certainly right after the attacks and the months following down at Ground Zero, you could tell the air wasn't right. And yet the administration who was in power at the time was telling us that the EPA had tested it and the tests were fine. And she was, and I remember her being one of the first people to stand up and say, wait a minute, this doesn't seem right, and kind of pushing the issue and having them later admitting that the tests weren't correct.
Christine Todd Whitman was one of the people who were saying, hey, don't worry about it, go down there, and others.
And I think she just apologized for that recently. Yeah.
About, 14 years later?
Yeah.
She's all over it.
But let me just push back slightly on Hillary Clinton. And what she did was great for New York, but it was almost a gimme. I mean, Peter King was part of that, and it was a gimme. And as far as introducing legislation, Joe, I have to say that she introduced 3 pieces of legislation. And the 3 of them were, one was a bill to name a portion of a highway after Tim Russert. Another was to name a park. And the last one was called the Cape Mullaney National Historic Site. So I'm not sure which bill she introduced to get money, but according to the records there, she didn't introduce any bill that succeeded along those lines.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that. I mean, I know I'm under the impression that she was part of the legislation that led to the funding for this, and I'm sure she wasn't alone either. I'm sure there was Peter King, and I'm sure there's other politicians that were involved in that as well. But and again, for me, it's more about the air quality, and but I do believe that she was fighting for us. I got that feeling at the time too. So.
Okay, let me push back one more time, Sid, if you don't mind, if I could.
I let you push back 5 and said a word, haven't I?
Joe,
you're trying to ruin it for the poor bastard. He was down there, a hero, when you're trying to take it away from him.
No, he's a Hillary supporter, so maybe he can clear this up. I will give him an opportunity to clear things up.
By the way, I'm not sure he's a Hillary supporter.
I forgot you were here, by the way.
Yeah, I know. Exactly. Go ahead.
Well, how about this? Hillary Clinton demonizes cops. She marches with a cop-hating creep like ass clown Al Sharpton. I mean, isn't that a problem?
Tell us how you really feel.
But isn't that not a problem, though? Seriously.
Yeah, I mean, I get that, and my feeling is, I think.
Well, before you go any further, do you feel that way?
No, I don't.
Okay, fine.
I don't.
There you go.
You don't feel that she marches with Al Sharpton and hangs out with him and says that there's intrinsic racism on the part of the police?
I mean, Al has inserted himself into a lot of places. So I get that, but my feeling of all of this is that, in order to solve these issues, we have to have the whole community get involved. And I think she's done a better job at, when she met with the police leaders here in New York, in the things that she said. She needs to include everybody in trying to come up with a solution. And I don't think that, dividing and you may not like Al Sharpton. I'm not using him as an example.
No, I love Al Sharpton.
I'm not using him as the leader of any particular community, but you need to go into these communities and work together with the police, with the people who live there, and the police departments themselves have to be engaged in their environment. They have to be engaged in the community. They can't be seen as an occupying army. They have to work together. That's the only way these things are going to be solved.
Who would disagree with that?
So because she's never come out and said the things that she doesn't. I hate the police are bad, it's all about the victims. But because she doesn't necessarily side with the police all the time, or because she puts a woman like Michael Brown's mother on stage, it's easy to attack her. But what you're saying is she's looking at the bigger picture. Yeah. She's looking at, listen, I love the cops, but there's an issue, and the only way to get past this issue is to bring it up and not necessarily jump on one side and not the other.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, so... And
very rational.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, no, I believe in that. And I was at a community meeting over the summer where we had some police officers and some people from the community just to talk about the issues that were on TV, these riots and Black Lives Matter and the police shootings and how can we get together and try and figure out a way forward. And some of the stories that I heard from some of the African American people who had grown up down south or had some issues even ongoing in their life now, and the pain that they felt was so real that I had to take a step back and go, wow. This is where they're coming from when they approach some of these issues. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I think we have to bridge that gap to understand each other and then move forward from there.
All right, that's reasonable. Listen, when she says that the police are guilty of intrinsic racism, though, that to me, and she says that right after a shooting, before we know the facts, before the facts come out, that seems to me she's pandering, and it's demonizing police at a certain time. And that eventually it has perpetuates the Ferguson effect, which when the cops are demonized, they're afraid to go into cities. They were afraid to be proactive, and that leads to more crime in the inner cities, and the people in the inner cities actually get hurt by what she said.
Do you believe that? That's true. What he just said.
Well, I believe that those are issues. I don't believe. First of all, I never heard her say that the police are intrinsically racist. There are.
She has.
Well, I've never heard her say that. But we all come with our own baggage to whatever job we do. So that's what I mean, where we have to step inside somebody else's shoes and kind of understand them in order to do, and that's the one thing about policing going forward. I think, we've made, police in America is probably the best in the world. So, and in New York City, I'm very proud of the police department. And I was there in a time when we made tremendous strides, going from the 80s to what we see today. And I definitely don't want to take steps backwards, for sure. But we do need to change, and that's the one thing police departments are reluctant to do. When they have success in cleaning up the streets, they don't adjust well because nobody wants to step up and say, hey, wait a minute, we need to kind of change the way we're doing things here. And I think that's where, from what I hear her say, that's where we need to go. That's why she's pledged, money to training, which I think is going to be crucial to fixing some of these issues. Some of these police departments may not be trained in the same way larger ones are. I can't speak to that, but I think that's going to be a key part of going forward. And it's important to focus on that. And at the very least, she's got this in mind as a solution.
Last week when you were on O'Reilly, you thought it was interesting. Bernard again is on O'Reilly tonight. You're on with Sheriff Clark, who is the hero amongst the Trump supporters. This is the guy that should have replaced Bill Bratton. He was asked a question.
Great guy.
Love him.
No, and I'm very impressed with him, and I have a lot of respect for him. I've seen him many times on the show, and a little intimidating, to be honest with you, that I was up against him.
Yeah, right. But as impressed as you are, and we all are, he seems like a great guy. He was asked a question on that program, and,
so we were both,
and the answer you seemed a little.
Yeah, we were both asked. I was asked why do I think, and I've never, by the way. The first time I was on a radio show today. First time I was on a television show.
And you're doing great. Fantastic. It ain't rocket science, as you can tell.
And he spoke at the DNC, so you've had the big crowds in front of you.
Yeah, well, and I was able to muscle through it, but my first TV experience was right in the Lion's Den. Bill O'Reilly, and going against Sheriff Clark.
Yeah.
But he asked us both. He asked me why do I think Hillary would be better president for police, and I gave basically the same answer I just gave you about training and moving forward and kind of bringing people together. And then he's like, pick one thing. So he asked Sheriff Clark, who's done this a million times, pick one thing, and his answer was, well, Donald Trump has shined the light on the problem. Well, come on, man. Seriously. He's been a supporter of him for a long time. He's in the police business. He doesn't have a better answer than he shined the light on a problem. You turn the news on, you see police shootings, you see riots, you see all these things happening. The light is on, man. It wasn't Donald that did that.
All right, but I guess it's more than just the police. There's cultural, sociological problems within the inner city.
I get what his answer was, and that places like Chicago, the murder rate is up, and all these things. But I don't think it was Donald that shined the light on that. I think that's something people have been talking about for a while.
Well, you got to take that up with Sheriff Clark.
No,
hey, listen.
I don't want to. Sweeney. I don't want to, by the way.
You can take him.
Listen, first of all, we're out of time, but Joe Sweeney, we have to break. Where did you grow up, by the way?
Actually, I lived in Long Island for a little bit, and then I moved upstate. I lived in Island Park.
Park? Yeah. Okay, next to Long Beach. Well, Brian Costello won't be talking to you anymore.
No, he's not.
After he knows you're a Hillary supporter.
I said to Sid when you walked out, I say he is not going to be happy with me.
Anyway.
And he's a big guy, so I have to duck him and Sheriff Clark.
He is a big guy. Former NYPD hero cop down at 9/11. Joe Sweeney spoke at the Democratic National Committee on behalf of Hillary Clinton on the Bernie and Sid show. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks, guys. Thanks.
All right, there he is. Back on Bernie and Sid after this.
Truth, the damn truth, New York's truth, the truth behind the BS. For New York, nothing at all in between. This is Bernard McGurk.
So Bernie.
This is Sid Rosenberg.
The one and only Sid.
Live, local, on it.
You never know what's going to happen.
Exclusively.
Bernie and Sid.
77 WABC.
Who is not registered? Is there anybody in here not registered? If you're not registered, get the hell out of here, okay?
Donald Trump, as we are back, hour number 2 of the Bernie and Sid show right here on legendary 77 WABC. And want to thank New York City police officer and retired detective after 21 years, Joe Sweeney, for stopping by. Big night, by the way, downstairs. I don't know if you know this, before we get to our next esteemed guest. Downstairs tonight, the opening of the NHL season. The Rangers host the Islanders in the first game of the season tonight downstairs. How about that?
I heard about that this morning on the Imus in the Morning program, and
excited?
No.
I think Ralph Nader is a diehard Ranger fan.
Ralph Nader is a huge Ranger fan. I know that because,
how do you know that? It was in his last book?
It was in his book.
He talked about going out with Mark Messier.
He campaigned in 2000 wearing a
Ranger
jersey. Yeah. A Ranger jersey. Ralph Nader is he's an American political activist, author, lecturer, attorney, noted consumer protection, a guy, environmentalist, and he ran for president a couple of times. One time, controversially, we'll talk to him about that, where supposedly he cost Al Gore the presidency. But anyway, joining us right now, he's got a brand new book, Ralph Nader does. It's called Breaking Through Power. Good morning, Mr. Nader.
Good morning, Bernie and Sid.
Hi, yes, Ralph. Sir. How are you, pal?
Fine, thank you.
So tell us about the Breaking Through Power. It's all about your David and Goliath like battles against big corporations, etc. Tell us about it.
Well, people read the papers, listen to the radio, watch TV. They see all the problems in the country, the abuse of power by big business, big government. the latest being Wells Fargo, of course, but only the latest of many. There's a sort of corporate crime wave against consumers and workers and the environment, and nothing gets done. The Congress seems to be in the pocket of the big boys, and so I've written this book, this little book. It's only 140 pages, fast-moving, a lot of examples on how people break through power through our history. It never takes more than 1%, sometimes a lot less than 1% of the people, roll up their sleeves, get engaged, go to the town meetings, mobilize, march, demonstrate, whatever, to get changes underway. There was a time when it was considered impossible that the Soviet Union and the U.S. would get together to start cutting down on their nuclear missiles, and Reagan saw all these huge marches in New York City and Washington, figured out there were some well-dressed Republicans there, and decided to negotiate arms control treaties with the head of the Soviet Union. It considered impossible. It was considered impossible to regulate the tobacco industry or to have no smoking sections. A handful of people got that. It was considered impossible to regulate the auto companies, to put in life-saving safety devices that now we take for granted. Handful of people got that done. Why? Because they represented majority public opinion, however quiet it was. They represented the will of the people, that they want their children, for example, to grow up and be safe in cars and to breathe cleaner air and drink cleaner water and eat safer food and so on. That's what this little book is about. And the key innovation in the book, Bernie and Sid, is the citizen summons to your senators and representatives. That is, town meetings are often set up by the politicians in Washington back home. They're pretty well choreographed, and they're controlled by the politicians in the auditorium. My idea is to reverse the dynamic as befits the sovereignty of the people under our Constitution and have the citizens summon the senators and representatives one at a time to town meetings in their district around what changes they want Congress to make. And Congress is the greatest instrument for a strong, resourceful, productive democracy we have, and we have to recapture it from the corporate and other special interests.
Well, I've gotten older and gotten much more cynical, Ralph, and the book is great, and you give a lot of really good examples of how you can, in fact, get past all of that, although, unfortunately, some of those examples are from many, many years ago. And I feel like people today feel like it's almost useless. They go out there and they fight, and they have really no chance to win the battles that you're talking about. So for the cynics out there that think, hey, you know what, I'm going to go through the motions, but I'm not going to get anywhere, you would say that's not the case, right?
No, I mean, sometimes, look, if you're driving along a road and there's a big boulder, and you get out and you try to push it aside, and it doesn't move, do you give up? No, you ask other motorists to pitch in, and 6 of you can push it to the side. So sometimes when people get cynical, as you say, or they get resigned to their powerlessness, is because they haven't gotten enough neighbors, friends, co-workers on board. And what's interesting about this book, it shows that there are a lot of left-right support for real major changes in this country. I outlined in another book 24 major areas where conservatives and liberals agree, even on the minimum wage now, restoring it from its inflation-gutted level of 7.25% federal. There's left-right support. That's what the polls show, 75% to 80% support. There's big support to get rid of crony capitalism, bailing out Wall Street with your hard-earned taxpayer dollars. There's left-right support for criminal justice reform. 15 states have passed it for juvenile crimes in terms of these long sentences. And so that's what we have to do. In short, look, people are really smart about sports. You know how they call in to these sports programs?
Sure.
It's incredible.
Right.
They know their record. They know the records of the players, the history of the team. They can strategize. They can second-guess the managers and the coaches. And if they had that kind of know-how and drive in the civic arena, just a few hundred hours a year for 1% of the people representing the majority on one issue after another, focusing on the lawmakers, bingo.
It's so sad. They can tell you the shortstop's salary, but they can't tell you who the vice president is and all the things you mentioned that you just outlined. Let's take it, Ralph Nader. The book, of course, is Breaking Through Power. Let's segue to the current presidential race. Ralph Nader, I know you ran for president on the Green Party ticket a couple of times, and you're supporting Jill Stein right now. And that aside, you say that the mainstream Republican and Democratic candidates, that they're indentured to the craven demands of the moneyed interests, which is a great line. But in this particular race, you have Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. Who would you say is more indentured to these moneyed interests at this point, Hillary or Trump?
Well, Hillary, is going to give you more Wall Street and more war. She knows the ropes in Washington, to be sure. Trump is totally unpredictable. The guy can go nuts on the installment plan. Imagine him in the White House. Everything is interpreted as bruising his ego, and he lashes out. No priorities, like getting up 3 o'clock in the morning and attacking a former Miss Universe for being overweight. So, pick your poison. My approach is always vote your conscience. In New York, New York's a blue state. You can vote for a third party and still get your least worst candidate of the two major parties. But I don't believe that the two major parties own the voters. I think a competitive democracy gets us more justice. It gets us a better choice on the ballot. And this idea of spoiler is only directed to a third-party candidate, even though they all have equal rights to run for election under our Constitution. And then it becomes a scapegoating, like the Democrats scapegoated the Green Party in Florida in 2000, even though 300,000 Democrats, Bernie and Sid, 300,000 registered Democrats voted for George W. Bush and not for Gore. Blame the Green Party on that? All the shenanigans of the Secretary of State under Jeb Bush in Tallahassee, taking votes and maneuvering fake ballots and all that. You blame the Green Party for that? The 5-4 decision that selected Bush, he was never elected. You blame the Green Party for that? Gore won the national popular vote by 500,000 votes. It was taken away from him by the Electoral College, which should be repealed. You blame the Greens for that? That's why I think using the word spoiler is a politically bigoted word, and it's unworthy of our democratic system.
So you're still feeling the sting of being blamed for Al Gore's loss, clearly.
Yeah, well, it's a scapegoating. The Democrats can't believe they didn't landslide this bumbling governor from Texas who couldn't put two paragraphs together and had a terrible record. So what do? They look around. Instead of looking at themselves in the mirror, they blame the Green Party.
Okay, so you're supporting Jill Stein. Listen to what she said about Hillary and Trump. Take a listen.
On the issue of war and nuclear weapons and the potential for nuclear war, it's actually Hillary's policies, which are much scarier than Donald Trump, who does not want to go to war with Russia. He wants to seek modes of working together, which is the route that we need to follow.
So, I mean, I know, again, you're supporting Jill Stein, but the fact is, people say it's a binary choice. The lesser of two evils, if you really think about it, may be Donald Trump with regards to war, according to your candidate.
No, I don't agree. I think
Thank God.
Trump doesn't know what he's doing.
Exactly.
He doesn't know what he's saying. He's totally unpredictable.
Roll the dice. Roll the dice,
and when you said that, Ralph, it's obvious that you're not thrilled with either candidate, and nor am I, by the way. But I am going to vote for Hillary Clinton because I know what she is. I don't like it, but I know what she is. I don't know what this other guy is. And to be honest, he scares the living daylights out of me. I don't know how anybody in this country is going to allow him to play with this country like it's a board game. And that's all he's done for 19 months is insult, tell us nothing. He's more unpredictable today, Ralph Nader, than he was 19 months ago.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's totally unable to control his impulses. He has no fact base. He doesn't know anything about the job he wants to take.
Agreed.
He's a failed gambling czar who turned into a corporate welfare king that cheats all his business contact, his workers, his consumers, Trump University, his creditors, his suppliers. He uses bankruptcy to strip shareholders of any value as in his words, a competitive advantage. But, in New York, New York's going to go big for Hillary, and you can vote your conscience in New York. But I don't endorse any candidate, because when you endorse a candidate, you got to go along with everything they say. I just praise them or criticize them on the merits. And I think the Green Party platform, which I ran on, is the best platform domestically and internationally.
Okay, so what you're doing is basically, I don't root for individual players in sports anymore, Ralph Nader. I root for the team because often the players on the team disappoint me when they do something in their personal lives. You're kind of with me on that, in that you're rooting for the Green Party, but not necessarily Jill Stein.
Yeah, I mean, that's often the thing. The Green Party platform, if it was put up to a poll, and let's say it had 20 issues, 15 of those issues would get majority support, like the labor protection platform, for example, and consumer protection platform. And why don't we wage peace as part of diplomacy instead of always start out with brute force? It's getting us in huge trouble all over the world, where the adversaries are spreading into one country after another. When does our foreign policy flunk?
Well, listen, all I can say, Ralph Nader, is going back to Trump and Hillary, Hillary's just going to be more of the same. Bought and paid for, the moneyed interest and all of that stuff. I mean, she sold out the State Department. We know that. Even the Clinton Foundation, they were looking for to help Haiti. They're more interested in getting their friends contracting jobs down in Haiti than they were in actually helping the people. I mean, that is very, very corrupt. That's all I would say in response to that. And but without further ado, let me just say this. You wrote a book back in 1965, Unsafe at Any Speed. And the irony is, and which was propelled you into the national spotlight, but you have never driven a car in your life till this point, and you're 82 years old. Am I correct?
No. Of course, I have a license. I've driven cars, but I like to take public transit and cheap taxis in Washington D.C. and become a pedestrian. And I think we ought to cut our use of cars where we can.
Right. Okay. Well, listen, Ralph Nader, we are out of time. The book is Breaking Through Power, and you are, you're a gentleman and a very intelligent man, passionate, and we thank you for appearing. Breaking Through Power from Ralph Nader on the Bernie and Sid Show. Thank you, Ralph.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you. We had a great session at Barnes & Noble down in Union Square, and the book went like hotcakes.
Oh, really? Do you have another?
Get empowered.
Do you have another signing up in New York? Or are you done here?
No signing scheduled. No.
Okay.
But what we want to do is give people a real morale boost with this book, that they can make a difference, they count, they can change the locale where they live. It's been done before, and it can be done again.
Awesome.
All right. Make America great again, Ralph.
Thanks, Ralph.
Very much. Back on Bernie and Sid after this.
The WikiLeaks emails show that Hillary Clinton's staff even has to give her secret notes on when she needs to smile. Smile, Hillary, smile. Hey, folks, we have to get back to work. Our country's in trouble. We can't play games anymore. Smile. You believe it? Smile.
Give me a break. Back on Bernie and Sid on 77 WABC, 1-800-848-9222.
Actually, I'm at the point now. I really am at the point now I feel bad for the guy. I swear, I'm not trying to be patronizing. I'm not trying to be a dick. But I actually feel he's getting beaten so badly. He looks so ridiculous. And you see, sounds so silly. I'm starting to feel bad for the guy.
You see the piling on that's going on.
No, I do. I admit there's a media bias.
The way the deck is so stacked against. So that's good.
That's true.
And of course, speaking of those WikiLeaks things, you barely hear about them. Some of the stuff that came out. Well, people would care, but
no, they don't.
You can't be calling some of the racist stuff needy Latinos. Right. Bill Richardson, Podesta said he can be a dick.
Okay, that's fine.
Talking about a needy Latino.
Bernard, there's an audio tape out there with Donald Trump using the N-word, which are not going to release, by the way, because of the money.
I didn't hear about this.
Well, maybe you should read up on it.
Tell me about it.
Well, read up on it. There's an audio tape out. There's an audio tape out there with Donald Trump using the N-word that is not being released yet because of a money issue. Everything with the women that he's piled on with Bill Clinton.
Listen,
he's got more women issues than anybody else in the country the last couple of days, Donald Trump. So for a guy that's very quick to say all these things about everybody else, maybe Donald Trump every now and then should look in the mirror.
And the anti-Catholic bigotry that came out in these latest batch of WikiLeaks. Remember the Star of David stuff? Everybody was freaking out.
Yeah. And all the Jews are still going to vote for her, and all the Catholics are still going to vote for her, and all the blacks are going to vote for her.
Genuinely curious, me and the listeners, about this tape of the N-word. Who has it? I'll look it up during the news.
Look it up.
In the meantime,
look it up.
I can fill in if you want.
Please do.
The allegation is that he uttered the N-word during an outtake of The Apprentice.
The Apprentice, correct.
And the Mark Burnett, of course, is the executive producer of The Apprentice, Survivor, all those shows, has a deal where if you talk out of the show, there's a $5 million fee.
And he doesn't want to pay the fine. He doesn't want to pay the $5 million fee, but there is an audio tape with Donald Trump saying the N-word.
It's an allegation that there is. We don't know that there is, but there's an allegation.
Right, an allegation. Right.
So, did he call somebody that, or?
Yeah, he used the word. What do you call somebody that? He used it. He wasn't saying, "Hey, come on over here, Dennis Rodman."
I'm asking as an innocent, curious. Let's say I'm a listener out in my car. I'm asking innocently.
No, you're not.
Yes, I'm totally am. I didn't hear about this.
Well, now you did. So, see, I'm here to bring this stuff that you don't hear about because it's negative stuff about your boy, but it's out there.
Okay, well,
but it'll never be released to the public because of the $5 million fine that will be paid.
So we'll never hear about it. We'll just hear about the allegation.
Correct.
And which by the way, just lay out there in the ether.
Which, by the way, we've got plenty of that. We've got a lot of that with the Clintons too, which I do believe exists.
Well, now I understand your pity for my boy. It's well deserved. Is well deserved pity because a lot of this stuff is really, really unfair. 1-800-848-9222. Bernie and Sid back after this.
77 WABC. Now.
Has Christie been snagged in the Bridgegate scandal? 65 Sunny Midtown. Here's the story she'll be talking about. 77 WABC.
This is an Election Central 2016 update.
Our first introduction to him was when we were at the dress rehearsal and half naked changing into our bikinis. To have the owner come waltzing in when we're naked or half naked in a very physically vulnerable position, and then to have the pressure of the people that work for him telling us to go fawn all over him, go walk up to him, talk to him.
Back on Bernie and Sid on 77 WABC. That's a former Miss Arizona talking about how Donald Trump apparently wandered into the dressing room where the girls were
half naked.
They were exposed.
I saw her this morning on CNN. She's actually prettier than Machado.
Why you got to be so shallow?
Oh, come on.
It's not a competition here.
No, it is. Miss Universe is a beauty competition.
No, not.
But she didn't make a porn video like Machado.
She did not make a porn video, no. Do we know if that's Machado? Is that definitely her?
Let's just assume it is.
It was a good movie.
It was a great movie.
You guys couldn't take your eyes off it.
It was fantastic. Let's hope it was her. And so anyway, yes, they're all coming out now, and let's hope that Joy Behar doesn't slam these people as tramps, as she did some of the other sex assault victims and rape victims.
Yeah.
Joy Behar, by the way, gets to just apologize and keep her job, and poor Billy Bush
is fired.
Gets the boot. Can you?
No,
is that not? That's outrageous.
It is outrageous. It makes me sick, to be honest. I can't stand Joy Behar. I can't stand that whole show, The View. But I share this. I share the same sympathy for Billy Bush. I don't know what the guy did that was so awful.
Right.
That he's lost his job.
I was talking about it yesterday. I mean, all of a sudden this week, everybody's a Puritan. Everybody's like, oh, the objectifying women. All of a sudden, that's our culture does that. Left and right, all over the place, everywhere. These people on these news anchors on TV, the women. First of all, there's no bald news anchors on TV. That's A. So you and I don't stand a chance to host.
Not Lauer's bald.
Well, yeah, but he started out as a pretty boy.
He did, but he ain't no pretty no more.
No, but that's maybe part of the sexism of the news media is that he's still there.
Yeah.
And some of the other women who were aged with him are not.
They're gone. Right.
They're gone.
Right.
All right. So the former pretty boy with the bald head gets to stay.
Right.
But you can't start out.
No, you can't start out that way.
You cannot.
Right.
And so so Billy Bush is but. And other times, everybody's talking about celebrating women's sexuality. I mean, there was a meme somewhere online with Miley Cyrus half naked sitting on a penis, saying, "I'm upset that Donald Trump is objectifying women."
Yeah.
That's and then you hear the on FM the audio pornography that goes on, et cetera, et cetera.
There's no question that hypocrisy is everywhere. There's no question, and I think what the Clintons are trying to show you here is that maybe the biggest hypocrite of all is Donald Trump. That's all. That he's the first one to call out Bill Clinton and all his adventures and everything he's done, and maybe, and I don't know if this stuff is true or not. I'm not here to crucify Donald Trump, But maybe, just maybe, Donald Trump is no better. And that's what the Clintons are trying to prove.
You may be right, but when you say he's the first one, I would posit that he responds. So she calls him a sexist, and she says, I'm a sexist?
I'm not going to give you that. I'm not going to give you that. He has spent 19 months insulting everybody with his stupid Mother Goose nicknames, and he insulted her with Crooked Hillary first. And you know what? He got away with it with Marco Rubio and Jeb Bush and Kasich and the rest of those guys. He has come at her. He started with her calling her Crooked Hillary way before the campaign even started against her, and now she is kicking his ass every single day.
It may have. I have to check the timeline, but she may have. She may have called him a bigot, and a racist first.
No,
or sexist.
No.
You're sure about that?
Positive.
So anyway, you have this clip of Wendy Williams.
Listen.
Tell us about this.
I'll tell you about this. He made a comment on The View. He's made comments in a bunch of places that as the father of a daughter, and I'm no prude, okay? Everybody knows Sid Rosenberg is no prude. But as the father of a daughter, he says stuff about Ivanka, which is sickening. It's not funny. It's not cute. It's not nice. It's not complimentary. It's disgusting. He's even said many times, if she wasn't my daughter, I'd date her. Well, he takes it a step further. Here's Ivanka Trump and Donald Trump together on the Wendy Williams show. Take a listen.
We want to know a little bit more about you guys, so we play this game here. It's called Fave 5. I'll ask the question. Ivanka, you answer first, and then Dad, you answer also.
This is tough.
Okay, Ivanka, what's the favorite thing you have in common with your father?
Either real estate or golf.
Donald, with your daughter?
Well, I was going to say sex, but I can't relate that.
And you had to see her face when he said I was going to say sex.
I did see it.
Her face was like, come on. Really, Dad?
Well, I don't even know what he meant by that. What did he mean?
Let's
flirty.
hope for the best.
What did he mean by that? I have that in common.
Maybe
they both like to have sex. Maybe he wants to have sex. Whatever it is. Yeah, how was the first comment about your daughter?
I don't know. You know what?
Sex.
He's just trying too hard. Just trying
No. Don't do that. Please don't do that. It's disgusting. It's gross.
Yeah.
It's not trying too hard. You got to call him out when he deserves to be called out.
So
that's gross.
There's this other accuser from 30 years ago who came out and said she was on an airplane with Donald Trump in first class. She got bumped up or went up somehow or other. She's sitting next to him. And she said this happened. Take a listen to her.
He was like an octopus. It was like he had 6 arms. He was all over the place. And if he had stuck with the upper part of the body, I might not have gotten that upset. But so when he started putting his hand up my skirt, and that was it. That was it. I was out of there.
So, I mean, it is odd that all of a sudden, on the same day, you have about 4 people coming out on the day of a big WikiLeaks stump. But I would say this. That was a little odd. What she said is that she was cool with him from the waist up.
Right.
But
grab my boobs, but don't go anywhere near my.
Once he put his hand up my, he went a bush too far, I guess you could say. But I mean that was a little odd. But all of a sudden, on the same day, all of these things are coming out.
Hey, listen, that's fair what you're saying. I know that you're uncomfortable saying that a woman may be lying because I know you're a good soul and it's uncomfortable. But the timing absolutely leads you to believe what's going on here. But all it does is prove my point. If he hits twice as hard, she hits 5 times as hard. Because if he's going to go after Bill Clinton, which is old news already, every single day they're going to come out with something which may or not exist that's going to make him look worse.
In this case, it was the New York Times. But your point is well taken because she and the New York Times and the media, they're all one and the same. So I take your point on that. Now, LeBron James was asked about locker room talk.
And we know that LeBron is very pro-Hillary, so I want to hear. I heard on Imus this morning. I think the listeners will enjoy this.
LeBron, what about all this locker room talk?
We don't disrespect women in no shape or fashion in our locker room. That never comes up. You know, I got a mother-in-law, a wife, a mom, and a daughter, and those conversations just don't go on in our locker room.
No music playing about big booty bitches in the background and none of that.
Listen.
Hey, how about Derrick Rose? You think?
Right, Derrick Rose. I was going to say, I know LeBron a bit. I was in Miami all those years. I believe him.
Your boys.
Right, that he doesn't say that type of stuff, but you're going to tell me that J.R. Smith doesn't in that Cleveland locker room? J.R. Smith, or like you said, Derrick Rose, or the days when Patrick Ewing, my second favorite Knick of all time, was banging a Knick City dancer when his wife was in Alpine, New Jersey. Well, give me a break.
Maybe LeBron, maybe around LeBron, he St. James.
Yes, he demands that respect. Maybe he gets it. But to say it doesn't go on, LeBron's full of it. Liar.
I would tend to agree with you.
Of course.
I mean, come on, LeBron. What do we look like, huh? Jeez. King James.
I mean, come on.
Come on.
But he's really pro. He really can't stand Donald Trump.
How about John from Ventura, California?
All right.
I think this is our first call from California. John.
Hey, yeah, okay. I hope you guys don't cut me off, but you know, you're talking about a lot of this stuff about Trump that is all of a sudden coming out at the same time WikiLeaks. But you know, I never took 2 cents to look at like Webb Hubble with Chelsea Clinton, the correlation there. No. And Bernie, I'm older. I got 2 kids now that are 9 and 6. I'm 56. If you put Chelsea next to Hubble and Clinton, money goes on Hubble.
I know what you're saying.
Go ahead. Why isn't that out there waiting? Then what about this black kid? Same deal, same spirit. Shouldn't it at least be talked about on the Bernie and Sid show?
You would think that would be
maybe tomorrow, huh?
You would think it would be out there on some of the new cable news shows. Actually, that Bill Clinton has an illegitimate black son who he ignores, who he had thrown off the property of the governor's mansion in Little Rock, Arkansas. And everybody ignores it. I mean, I don't know if there's some sort of racist conspiracy here, but you're right about that, John.
And I mean, you got kids, Bernie?
Of course.
Yeah. Well, what do you think about the similarities of Chelsea and Webb Hubble? I mean, from the nose down, it's all Webb.
No, I know this has been out there for a long time. The Bill Clinton's son thing is brand new. Actually, Drudge has been hammering that, but nobody touches it. You're right, John.
Well, maybe nobody touches it because, unlike Arnold Schwarzenegger, we know for a fact that is his kid. Do we know for a fact 1,000%? So, well, of course, we're not going to touch it. No, because John from Ventura wants to talk about it.
Somebody should arrange for a DNA test.
You need to go on Maury.
Go on Maury.
Maury.
Maury does it every single day. But we're not going to talk about it, John, if it may not exist.
But if he makes this allegation, as other people are making allegations about Trump and have about Bill Clinton, shouldn't it be explored? I mean,
go for it. You
know what I'm saying?
You see, what you guys refuse to understand, and I get it because you want your guy to win, is let's say it's true. Let's say he does have an illegitimate son. Does it matter? He's been accused of rape.
Yes, it matters to the son.
Been accused, or maybe to the son.
Yes, and the grandkids.
But the idea that you're going to make Bill Clinton, like when Donald Trump says, if you release more videos, I'm going to talk more about Bill Clinton. We get it. Bill's a dog. He's a lowlife. He's a pervert. He's a scumbag. Guess what? People still love him. They love him.
He's a lovable rogue, a rascal.
Right. He's a lot more lovable than Donald Trump.
1-800-848-9222. In your opinion, back after this.
77 WAB.